At least 11 have been killed in this shootout in the bar in the 10th district of Paris. We understand that a gunman used an automatic gun to open fire there, and people reporting seeing dead bodies in the middle of the street.
Well, AP now reporting that President Hollande has gone into an emergency meeting with his officials. Let's speak now to the Paris-based journalist Jess Sestili, who is monitoring events there. And Jess, now we're getting this picture of a major coordinated attack across the French capital.
Yes, indeed. So it's just started off with the first, what we thought was a bar being shot at, but recently we found that there's a Korean restaurant just by where the Charlie Hebdo officers were back in January. This is an area populated mostly by younger generation, and recently, straight afterwards, we heard about the Stade de France explosion where François Hollande was attending a Paris-friendly match. I've heard from France 24 sources that he has been put in a more safe position, obviously, and he's now attending a meeting with Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve. Shortly, just probably about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, we've heard about this attack just down the way from the restaurant in the 11th, which is a concert hall where there was a rock group playing that night. We don't know for sure who is exactly being held hostage. We're assuming audience members. We don't know if it's the group. This has also been a very popular bandstand for a younger generation. It's also about 5 minutes walk from the Libération offices, as well as where Charlie Hebdo was being held for all these months since the January attacks.
Yeah. We understand now that Charlie Hebdo have moved their offices for safety reasons, but it does appear that, as you say, the two of these locations are fairly close to each other. Do we know anything more, Jess, about the timings, whether these were sort of simultaneous?
Well, they weren't simultaneous. The first one that happened was the first sirens that I heard were coming from about 10:30 p.m. and that was
I'm just going to interrupt you. We're just getting news now from AP quoting police in Paris. At least 26 dead is now the figure that we're getting from them. So clearly this is a major incident here.
Yes, this is a major incident, and you can definitely feel it on the ground. There is complete chaos in all the roads. Police have cordoned off areas. There's no one on the street apart from officials and obviously press, although the press aren't really being allowed into much areas at the moment, since emergency services are still dealing with all the people that have been hurt. Shortly afterwards, there was the Stade de France explosion, which was more coordinated with the bar. And only about 15 minutes ago have we heard news of this hostage situation in the Bataclan theatre just down the road, where there was a rock concert taking place.
And we think that the majority of those who've been killed are at this restaurant near the Place de la République.
Yes, indeed. It's a restaurant frequented more so by the younger generation. It's very popular, it's very cool, and it's also with a lot of tourists. So it seems a bit of an unlikely target, more so a surprise hit, hoping to find where a lot of people would be on the Friday night.
And what's the reaction? We're watching these live television pictures here on BFM. What's the reaction of the French media?
Well, the French media are trying to find more information, as we all are here at Sky. And also, we are sending people onto the ground as soon as possible. For the minute, police sources are stating to us a different amount of deaths that we're receiving from AFP. So we are likely to have a more clear outcome of what the situation as soon as the police send out their report.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's a very tense scene, and it's very high pressure.
Yeah, and it does indicate that they're obviously trying to establish details as much as everybody else is at the moment.
Exactly.
Jess, for the moment, thank you very much indeed for that. So let's just update you on that latest figure that we're getting from AP, quoting French police sources. At least 26 dead now being reported in a number of incidents, at least 3 across Paris, with the latest at that concert hall being described now as a hostage-taking, which is still underway. and the number of deaths rising as they establish exactly what's happened on the streets of the French capital. We'll keep you updated with these live pictures that we're getting from French television, BFM TV. So it is now 10 o'clock. You're watching Sky News Live as we update you with this breaking news from Paris. At least 26 dead in what's reported to have been a multiple act of violence, according to French police. Explosions were heard inside the Stade de France football stadium, the country's president watching a football match there just minutes earlier. Well, this is the scene live with French television. Reports that hostages, as we say, being held at the city's Bataclan concert hall, and as you can see, the French anti-terrorist police with what appear to be semi-automatic weapons, bulletproof vests, are creating cordons at these at least 3 locations across the capital. Let's speak now to...
Very disturbing situation, and as heartbreaking as the numbers are, unfortunately, we have to report our affiliate BFM, our Paris affiliate, now reporting at least 60 people are confirmed dead in what is clearly a Paris terror attack, and who knows how many people have been injured in explosions, gunfire, AK-47s in multiple parts of the French capital. Evan Perez, our justice reporter, is getting more information as well. Evan, what are you learning?
Well, Wolf, we know that counterterrorism officials here in the United States have convened secure conference calls around the country to try to gather information. They don't know yet what they're dealing with, and really to assess whether there's any danger here to U.S. cities. So far, there's no indication of any actual threats here in the United States, but it is something that they're keeping an eye on. And Wolf, immediately, what they're looking at here is, again, from a distance, having very little information on the ground yet from Paris. What their immediate suspicion from officials that I've talked to is that, you know, the French have long been worried, and the U.S. has long been worried about returnees, people who have gone to fight in Syria and Iraq and have returned. And so that's the first place where everybody is looking at the population of people who the French have been concerned about. They've had a very hard time keeping track of, which Jim Sciutto and Paul Kringshak have been talking a little bit about in the last hours. So that's where this investigation begins. Again, there's no confirmation yet of who actually carried this out, but obviously the appearance of coordination in these attacks is not escaping anyone's notice. U.S. counterterrorism officials are very much keeping an eye on this, Wolf.
Our French affiliate once again now reporting at least 60 people are dead in what clearly is now considered to be a terror attack unfolding in multiple locations in Paris right now. We're also told, our White House correspondent Jim Acosta has been told by a White House official that President Obama has been briefed on the situation in Paris by the Assistant to the President for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism.
Explosion d'une bombe. Il n'y a même pas 2 minutes. Il n'y a même pas 1 minute là. Explosion. À Evans. À l'instant. Une bombe, elle a explosé. Wow, on dirait du stade de France. Non. Je crois qu'il est mort. Reculez. Hey, tout le monde recule.
Back, we have some breaking news for you out of Paris, France. Several people have been killed and 7 others injured following a shooting in central Paris late Friday, according to CNN affiliate BFM TV. Police are at the scene outside a restaurant where the incident took place, at least in one of the locations that's been identified. A witness told BFM TV that firefighters are also on the scene to treat the injured. We are going to follow this story. Actually, we're going to go now to Paul Cruikshank, our terrorism analyst, to talk about what we know. Paul, are you there?
Yeah, hey, Jay. This is obviously very early stages here. This is a developing, fast-moving situation in Paris. There are reports of a shooting at a restaurant, the 10th arrondissement, and there are also unconfirmed reports of explosions at the National Football Stadium in Paris as well. Unconfirmed reports that President Hollande of France has been evacuated because of all this from that area. I was speaking to one French national security reporter. You can imagine the moment they're sort of racing to get information. The worry at this very early hour is that this may be some kind of terrorist event, but it's at a very, very early hour here. But the worry is that there may be something coordinated going on right now in Paris. I have to emphasize again, we really do not yet know what is going on, whether this is some kind of terrorism event or there is some other explanation for these early reports coming in from Paris.
Julian Pierce is joining us. He's a radio reporter. Julian, I understand you were inside the Bataclan Theater during this concert that American rock band Eagles of Death Metal were performing, but now you've made it outside. Tell us what you've seen and what you've heard.
Well, I've seen two terrorists, from my point of view, with AK-47 Kalashnikovs entering the concert room and firing randomly to the crowd. People yelled, screamed, and everybody lied on the floor. And it lasted for 10 minutes, 10 horrific minutes, where everybody was on the floor covering their head. And we heard so many gunshots, and the terrorists were very calm, very determined, and they reloaded 3 or 4 times their weapons. And they didn't shout anything, they didn't say anything, they were unmasked. They were wearing black clothes, and they were shooting at people on the floor, executing them. And I was luckily at the top of the stage, in front of the stage, so people started to try to escape, to walk on people on the floor and try to find an exit. And I found an exit when the terrorists reloaded his guns in the meantime, and I climbed on the stage, and we found an exit. And when I went on the streets, I've seen 20 to 25 bodies lying on the floor, and people were very badly injured, gunshot wounds. And I took a small girl, a teenager. She was bleeding very badly, and I ran with her for like 200 meters, and I found a cab, a taxi, and I let her in, and I said to the cab driver, "Go to the hospital." And I have some friends right now who are still inside the Bataclan, who are hiding because they're not sure if there is any terrorist in there, and they're hiding in some kind of room in the dark, and they text me, and they're very afraid, of course, and they're waiting for the police to intervene. But it's been over 2 hours now, and this is terrible. What happened was terrible, terrific. I mean, honestly, 15 minutes, 10 minutes of gunshots firing randomly in a small concert room. I mean, the Bataclan is not a huge concert room. It's a small one. I suppose 1,000 people were there maximum, and it was horrible.
Julian, were these terrorists, and you say you saw 3 or 4 of them, you say they were dressed in black, were their faces covered with masks?
They were not wearing masks. I mean, they were unmasked. I've seen the face of one guy, of one terrorist. He was very young. He was like 20 years old, 25 maximum. He wasn't wearing a bear or something. He was like a random guy holding a Kalashnikov. That's all. And they were not masked.
And did you hear any words coming out of his mouth? Was he speaking in French or Arabic or anything you could discern?
Nothing. I've heard nothing. Just the yelling and the screaming of the people. But they didn't shout anything. They didn't say anything. Not Allah Akbar or something like this. They said nothing. They just shot. They were just shooting to people.
So they weren't questioning anyone who they were. They would just look at someone and shoot and kill them. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And you say
Correct.
you saw 20 people shot and killed, at least 20 bodies there on the floor of the theater?
Yes, I can confirm that. Some of them were dead, some others were very badly wounded, but it was a bloodbath.